Welcome back here on topic 3 of Module 1. We will be looking at the principles of teaching sport. For this section, I'm going to ask you to think about the ways that you coach, the way that you approach planning a practice, the way that you approach teaching during practice, and how you try to implement tactics and strategies into your practices to prepare your athletes to play. So, as we start off this topic, the first thing that we want to look at is the technical skill and practice. So, how do we do that? How do we instill our technical skills? How do you develop a practice plan that allows you to teach those, but also keeps your athletes engaged? I think the one thing that sometimes becomes an issue is keeping them engaged. And at our level here at Dordt, I'm asked my guys to practice at a rate of speed that is more than is faster than what they would experience in a game, and we go really fast, and we kind of maybe throw some of the technical aspects out of the way and try to create an environment in which they are free to fail. Obviously, baseball is a sport that is very focused on failure and focus, and it's a huge part of the game. And who fails the least is typically who wins, and not every sport's that way. And so that's a huge thing for us. And I developed our practice with that mindset, knowing that typically in the sport of baseball, practices can get very mundane and repetitive, and create an environment that is conducive for boredom. And that's one thing we have to think about. If we're doing the same things day in, day out, our athletes are not going to stay engaged. They aren't going to stay active in what we're trying to do, and it's going to limit their growth. And so as coaches, it's our responsibility to make sure that we are putting together plans and actions that don't allow opportunity for boredom and in this kind of repetitive nature. And so we like to add a lot of variables into our training, just things that aren't expected, or maybe last minute changes to the practice plan that the coaching staff knows about that our players don't see on our practice plan, to keep them engaged and kind of keep them on their toes at all times. And so with that's kind of plays into this idea of having a holistic approach to our practices in training our athletes, and trying to really fully prepare them for what they're going to encounter in gameplay. And so when we talk about what we're trying to do in practice, we're trying to kind of touch on 3 stages: the mental stage, and how our athlete's psyche is being developed; our practice stage, which is covered in the book, which deals with a lot more of the physical attributes; and then this stage of automatic, where our athletes can get to this point where they aren't thinking about these certain technical aspects of sport, but it becomes an automatic. And that's where we start to see growth take place, when we have more automatics in our game. And so those are kind of the foundations for this section. And I don't know how much time you take on your practice plan, and I know that most of y'all are going to be high school coaches, and you're limited because you're in the classroom a lot more than I am, or coaching staff here at Dordt. And so maybe you aren't going to be able to spend as much time developing that practice plan. I know for us, typically, my coaching staff and I are going to sit in the office and spend 45 minutes, an hour and a half, depending on the day. Some of our days are kind of set, developing our practice plans. And we also spent, better part of 2 weeks there in early August kind of laying it out and talking about what we were going to do, and kind of built a foundation for us to build on that has kind of shrunk our conversations during the year on what we want to do. We're more now focused on adding some little pieces on things that we're consistently repeating as a group into our practice, and we know our foundation we're working off of. But as high school coaches, it can be a challenge to spend the time on a practice plan to make sure that your athletes are getting the most out of it, or that you're training, in a way that really develops those technical skills and building a foundation for them. So on page 196 and 197 of your book, there's a technical skills development sheet, and that's going to be one of your assignments in this topic is to kind of, it's going to ask you to target those things, and it's hard for us to develop what we want to do if we aren't going to target those things. So as a coach, it's important for us to nail down the things that we want to accomplish, that we want to train. What are we going to be good at? Where are the things that are going to define our program? And then I'm going to flip to page 206 real quick here. On page 206, there's an identifying and evaluating the skills you'll teach. And so, in this section here, it kind of talks about our technical, our tactical, our physical skills, your mental skills, communication, character, and maturity and experience. And these are all things that are applicable to me at this level. I think the big ones that I see daily as a challenge is and I think this is great information for, aspiring high school coaches to know, is that the communication's a big one, and I'm sure that's a challenge that y'all have to deal with at your level, and just the age that we're in. We're so keyed in, and it's easy for us as coaches to want to say, well, they're on their phone all the time. They don't communicate the same way. Well, and can't talk to people. Well, maybe it's our responsibility to meet them on their level at some point and communicate with them that way. And so that's been a challenge for me to think about and kind of try to navigate through, because I want to talk to guys in person. I want to get on the phone with them. I want to do those things. But for some of your athletes, that's just, they aren't going to be comfortable doing that. And so in order for us to really help them grow and build the trust and respect within our athletes that we need for them to be able to improve, we have to meet them at that level and help build them there. I know that's a just basic example, so I'll ask you to do this evaluation too. It's a simple one, and just evaluate how you're teaching, what you're teaching, and if it's effective. And so as you kind of go through these, I think it's important to kind of establish a couple things, and it kind of goes back to the end of the last chapter in the book. It goes back to knowing your athletes, knowing the situation you're in, establishing the priorities that you have, and select the methods that you want to use to teach based on your athletes. And I think when we talk about foundations, it's a huge thing for me, and knowing your athletes is the ultimate foundation. If you want to keep your athletes engaged, you want to build trust and respect so they can grow, you have to know them. You have to invest in them. You have to spend that time getting to know them, and that's only going to open up doors for you. Hopefully you enjoy these chapters. I have those 2 assignments in there for you, and we'll have another one in there too, where I want you to develop a practice plan of 1 week of start to finish. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is what we want to accomplish. And I'll map that out in the assignments tab. But hopefully you enjoy this part. These are going to be a lot of things that you've heard before. I would assume if you've been to any coaching conventions or, read from great coaches, and so it'd be a great way to reinforce some of your thoughts, some of your ideas, and hopefully open up your mind to some new stuff. As always, if you need anything, just shoot me an email, and hopefully you enjoy this topic. Have a good one.